So, the next few days were kind of tough. Lena and I tried searching online, but we got nowhere. To be honest, we didn't really know where to start. Eventually, we had to give in and just wait and hope that Grammy's German friends would come through for us. I was kind of on tenterhooks. Lena handled it better, but even she was anxious. I could tell. Then on Wednesday evening, Grammy called with news.
I think we've found her.
She began.
But Zoe, honey,
The way she trailed off left me with a sinking feeling. What is it, Graham? Is it bad? Grammy collected herself.
okay. So, one of my German colleagues is a young man named Werner. He was digging through some archive material and not really getting anywhere.
She paused to light up a cigarette.
Anyway, he was interrupted by a more senior archivist who asked what he was looking for. He explained, and the archivist told him that purely by chance, he had just been reading a book written by his grandfather about his experiences in World War II.
Lena and I were on the edge of our seats.
His grandfather had written about a nightclub known as the Rathskeller and had particularly remembered a call girl there named Magda.
My heart was racing, and Lena was grasping my hand so tightly.
When he came home on leave, he went looking for her. He had saved up his money just to spend a night with her.
She took a puff of her cigarette. I think her hand might have been shaking.
She was gone, taken in the night by.
Even through a screen, I could see that her face had gone pale.
It seems that Magda was Jewish and almost certainly bisexual and not very discreet about it.
My blood went cold. Oh, God. No. I shuddered.
She was taken in the middle of the night and sent. Well, that's where the trail goes cold. But, honey, it seems very likely that she died in a camp. You know?
I was almost in tears. So was Lena.
Zoe, I don't think I could bring myself to tell Janet that she.
No. Oh, God, no. I exclaimed. It's too terrible. I was positively mortified. My mom, even though it was another life, it was still my mom. We can never tell her, I said urgently. Never,
I'm so sorry, honey.
Grammy said.
I know how much you were hoping.
No, it's okay, I said, recovering myself. It's okay. We'll just have to find another way,
We will, honey.
Lena said, giving me a comforting hug. So Lena and I discussed it, and we decided that our best option was to just confront it. Introduce Lena to Mom. Let her see firsthand how much we truly loved each other, even if we had to ambush her. We had it all planned out, ready for the weekend. But Mom had other plans.
Sorry, honey. I'm going to be out of town this weekend.
She told me. Really?
I have an important errand to run. Sorry, dear. How about next weekend?
Oh, okay. I sighed. It was a setback, but in a way it kind of strengthened our resolve. And besides, another week couldn't hurt, could it? Well, I had no idea what happened, but on Monday evening, Mom called. We chatted for a while, the usual family trivia. Then, out of the blue, she said,
So, this Lena, you really love her, right?
"With all my heart, Mom," I replied emphatically.
Well, I guess I'd better meet her then.
My heart raced.
Why don't you bring her up to the house this weekend?
She offered. "Oh, I think Lena has to work this weekend," I replied. "Tell you what, why don't we meet up for coffee?" Okay, it was a slight revision of our original plan, but Mom's sudden turnaround was a big help.
Oh my God.
Lena gasped when I told her.
What if she hates me?
"How could she possibly hate you?" I replied. "You're adorable."
Yeah, but you're biased.
she said with a grin. Yes, I am, I said as I started to tickle her playfully. She giggled uncontrollably,
Quit it.
she said, tickling me back. Moments later, we were both on the floor, giggling like crazy. After that, well, you know, Mom found me already sitting outside the coffee shop, enjoying a cigarette.
Hi, honey.
She said, taking a seat and arranging herself.
So, where is she?
Hi, Mom. Like I said, Lena is working. She'll be along soon. Right on cue, Lena came out and delivered my coffee before turning to Mom.
Can I get you anything, ma'am?
She said politely.
Chai latte, wasn't it?
Mom smiled.
You remembered? Yes, thank you, dear.
Lena gave me a wink and went back inside. Mom finally got herself settled, then said,
Oh, yes, this is where
a penny suddenly dropped and Mom's eyes narrowed.
I've been set up, haven't I?
It wasn't a question. Sorry, Mom, I said sheepishly.
Zoe?
She chided. A few moments later, Lena returned with Mom's coffee.
Here you go.
She said with a smile.
1 chai latte.
She put down the mug and Mom said,
Thank you, Lena.
Lena froze, her eyes wide. Then she looked at me and I just shrugged.
I think you'd better sit down, dear.
Mom said. Lena meekly pulled up a chair and joined us. Mom figured it out. I apologized.
Nice to meet you, Mrs. Sheridan.
Lena said with embarrassment.
Nice to meet you too, Lena.
Mom replied politely. She pulled out a pack of cigarettes and asked,
Would you like a cigarette, Lena?
Thank you, Mrs. Sheridan.
Lena replied, taking one.
Zoe?
I accepted and slotted it into my cigarette holder. Then Mom turned to me.
So, the last time we were here, you two were.
I had a horrible feeling that she was about to make some hugely inappropriate gesture, so I quickly replied, God, no. We had barely met. It was at least another 3 days before we fell in love,
That's not quite true, honey.
Lena corrected. She turned to Mom.
I pretty much fell in love with Zoe from the moment I saw her. Both times.
Oh, baby. I sighed and gave her a quick kiss. Then we each lit up and Mom noted quizzically.
Both times?
Lena and I looked at each other. Then I began by saying, Mom, you know I have a website, right? So we told Mom the whole story, the full unedited director's cut, with additional commentary and occasional, no, make that frequent, apologies. Mom listened carefully, her expression kind of unreadable. No questions, no comments. It was the longest I'd ever seen her go without talking. It was kind of scary. I kept thinking, oh my God. Any second now, she's going to completely lose it. But she didn't. She waited until we had finished, then took out her cigarettes and said,
Okay, then.
I was speechless. This was so not the reaction I was expecting. Lena was equally astonished. Mom offered her cigarettes, and we each took one and lit up. Lena and I both in stunned silence.
So, let me get this straight.
Mom said. She looked at me,
You were Daisy,
then at Lena.
and you were Roger, right?
We both nodded.
And I was a German hooker, apparently.
She concluded sarcastically.
God, this whole thing is crazy.
Oh God, we're losing her, I thought. So I started to protest. Mom, I'm sorry, but
Let me finish, honey.
she interrupted. Then she took a thoughtful puff of her cigarette and said,
So, as crazy as this all sounds, which is pretty crazy, I guess I kind of understand. And if it means that much to you, then what the hell?
It took me a moment to process, then I asked nervously, so, you're not mad at us? For kind of hoodwinking you? Mom took another puff of her cigarette.
I should be.
She replied calmly.
But, honey, whether I believe it or not, doesn't matter. You believe it. And I can see the way you two look at each other.
She let out a big sigh.
God, it's so sweet, it's sickening, and completely wonderful.
She smiled wistfully.
I remember when your father and I used to look at each other like that.
She crushed out her cigarette.
You're in love, all right.
She said.
And I guess I'm just going to have to get used to it.
Then I lost it. I was so happy I was almost in tears. Oh, Mom. I cried joyfully. I got up and tried to give Mom a big hug, which she resisted fervently.
Zoe,
She said.
get a hold of yourself. You're embarrassing Lena.
I looked over at Lena for a moment, and far from embarrassed, she was positively glowing. I managed to break through Mom's defenses enough to give her a kiss on the cheek. Then I sat back down and took Lena's hands in mine.
Okay,
She said.
just keep a lid on it, you two.
Then she turned to Lena.
What time do you finish work, Lena?
Lena blushed and replied.
Actually, I finished about a half hour ago.
I could see Mom trying to work out the timing of our little setup. Then she just gave up.
Whatever.
She said.
I'm starving. You want to go get something to eat?
So Mom took us for lunch. Lena got the 3rd degree, and I was astonished and delighted as they hit it off wonderfully. In no time at all, Lena was calling her Janet, and they were laughing and joking, and we had a great meal. It was perfect. She even asked us about Daisy and Roger, quite seriously and without her usual derision. But there was no further reference to Magda. She did annoy me at one point when she blatantly asked,
Are you quite sure she didn't just hypnotize you to start smoking?
"Don't be ridiculous, Mom." I snapped. It was my decision.
Really? How would you know? You were in a trance.
I'm not having this conversation. I replied obstinately. And seeing the look on my face, she wisely dropped it. Then Mom dragged us on an impromptu shopping trip, where Lena became her new dress-up doll for the rest of the afternoon. This led to a lot of protests and debate. Lena kind of has her own style, and Mom's choices were so not her. An endless parade of dresses which Lena hated. She doesn't do dresses. Anyway, she played along, trying them on and letting Mom see how she looked, but I could see the look in her eyes. Finally, she broke and said painfully,
Janet, I appreciate all this, but I'm really not comfortable with this stuff, you know?
Mom considered her carefully, then said,
Okay. What would you be comfortable with, dear?
Lena gestured to her own clothes hanging in the changing room. Mom thought for a moment, then went off and came back with another batch of clothes, but more to Lena's taste. She did insist that Lena try some blouses instead of her usual t-shirts.
Trust me, honey.
She said,
A nice blouse will look good on you.
and she was right. Even Lena had to admit that a couple of the blouses Mom had picked looked great on her. Then Mom pulled out her masterpiece, a short leather jacket which was a really dark green that almost seemed to shimmer. Lena's eyes went wide.
Oh my God.
She gasped.
Try it on, honey.
Mom instructed. Lena carefully put on the jacket and beamed. She looked incredible.
You like it?
Mom asked.
I love it.
Lena replied. Then she found the price tag and her face went pale.
Oh God, it's so expensive.
Don't you worry about that, dear.
Mom said.
What do you think, Zoe?
I nodded in approval. It's perfect. We finished off back at the coffee shop where Lena got us free coffees and we sat outside with a whole bunch of shopping bags. Lena was proudly wearing her new leather jacket. Her old one was carefully tucked under my arm. She really did look amazing. The dark green contrasted with her red hair perfectly. Seriously, she was radiant. Mom was delighted. That is until we told her we were getting married in August. Then she kind of flipped out.
Are you crazy?
she cried.
Have you any idea how much planning it takes to arrange a proper wedding? No. Don't answer that. It was rhetorical. Because clearly, you don't. There's no way.
We kind of have our hearts set on it.
Lena interrupted calmly, which kind of stopped Mom in her tracks. She looked at us for a moment. Then she sighed, took a deep breath, and said,
Okay. Okay. Here's what we do.
she turned to me.
Zoe, you bring Lena up to the house tomorrow. Early. We've got a lot of work to do. We'll have to.
And she was off, already planning things out and getting things organized. Her train of thought was unstoppable. Completely stunned, Lena turned to me with a look that said,
Oh God, what have we done?
I just beamed back at her. We were getting married. So the next day, we went up to the house, as ordered, and Mom set to work, quizzing us on what we had already done, then telling us why that was all wrong, before starting over with a whole new plan that was way beyond our wildest imaginings. Just after lunch, she got round to Lena, getting a complete inventory of her friends and family and who might come and where they might sit at the reception, any special dietary requirements, all that kind of stuff. You know? I took the opportunity to quietly excuse myself and headed off to the garage to look for Dad. Dad was working on the car, or pretending to work on the car. It was his go-to when Mom was on one of her missions and he needed to get out of her way,
Hey, Princess,
he said with a smile.
you managed to escape.
For a while anyway. I shrugged. Hey, Dad. Is Mom okay?
What do you mean, honey?
Oh, you know, she completely turned around on this whole thing so fast. That's not like her. And she seems, I don't know, you know? Dad just looked at me for a moment, then sighed.
Sit down, honey.
He said, pulling out a stool for me. I sat down and Dad retrieved an old oil can and a mug. He gave me a conspiratorial wink as he poured what was clearly whiskey into his mug. Then he took a sip and leant back on the side wing of the car. So what happened? I asked. Dad looked at me seriously.
You cannot tell your mother I told you.
He warned. I promise.
Okay,
He began.
so your grandmother did the thing, you know? And your mom came home, same as always, and just shrugged the whole thing off as nonsense. Then dropped the whole thing and got on with whatever she was doing.
He took a sip of his whiskey, then continued.
Then, in the middle of the night, she just woke up in floods of tears. I swear, I've never seen her so upset. So I said, "What's wrong, honey?" She just looked at me and said,
Shut up and hold me, you idiot.
so I held her until she went back to sleep.
He paused for a moment.
Next morning, I came down for breakfast, and she was just sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee. She looked at me and said,
Sit down. I need to say something.
I knew that look. It was the shut up and listen look. So I did. Then she said,
I was wrong. About all of it. Mom was right. It's real. I know it now. I don't even know how I know, but I do.
then she told me the story about how your grandmother had taken her back to a past life and how she saw this. Magda. But then she told me that when she was sleeping, she dreamt the rest. And this time she was Magda, living and breathing and feeling everything that happened to her.
He winced.
Honey, it was not good.
I know, Dad, I said. Grammy got in touch with a friend in Germany. He did some research and told us what happened. And it was terrible. We decided that we'd never tell her,
Oh, she knows, baby.
Dad said, polishing off his drink. Oh, wow, I gasped.
When she'd finished, I said, so, what does this mean? She just shrugged and said,
I don't know.
then she pulled out a pack of cigarettes and said,
Oh, by the way, I'm smoking again.
And what did you say to that? I asked with a grin.
I said, okay, honey.
Somehow I managed to keep it together the rest of the day. Kind of. I didn't know what to think or how to react, so I didn't. I'd promised Dad not to let on. But, you know, this was big. A couple of times that day, Mom had to snap me back down to earth, saying,
Zoe, quit daydreaming and pay attention. This is important.
and looking at Mom, you would never even think that anything had happened. She was totally business as usual. But just to think, you know? Anyway, by the time we were ready to leave, I couldn't stop myself. Right there on the porch, I gave Mom a huge hug and a kiss on the cheek.
What's all that for?
She asked in surprise. For everything, I gushed. For helping with the wedding. For being my mom. For being you. She turned to Dad.
What's got into her?
She asked.
I don't know.
Dad shrugged. But he knew. When we reached the intersection, I turned right instead of left. Lena noticed immediately and asked,
Aren't we going home, honey?
No, I replied. We have to talk to Grammy. I have news, and it can't wait. Then I told Lena what Dad said, and she agreed. It couldn't wait, and it should not be over the phone. So she called ahead to let Grammy know we were on our way, but not why.
So, what brings you two all the way up here so late?
Grammy asked as she poured us tea. I swallowed, took a deep breath, and came out with it. Mom knows everything about Magda. I mean, you know? Everything? Dad told me. Grammy sighed.
Oh, he did. Yes, of course he did.
She put a gentle hand on my knee and said,
Sorry, honey, but I already know.
I gasped. You know?
Yes,
She replied calmly.
Janet turned up here last weekend, out of the blue.
I suddenly realized she said she had an errand. That was you?
I guess so, honey.
She continued.
I was surprised to see her. Then she sat right where you are and said,
Mom, I think I owe you like a stack of apologies.
Whatever for, honey? I asked.
Oh, you know, my attitude all these years, all the scorn, the derision, God, all the arguments we've had, you know, about your job, this whole reincarnation thing.
What do you mean, Janet? I replied.
I'll admit it. I was wrong. I was so totally wrong. All these years.
She was kind of struggling with it, so I told her, Slow down, Janet. I don't follow. What's brought this on? Then she lit a cigarette and told me the whole story about her dream, about actually being Magda and experiencing everything that happened to her. Oh, God, honey. It was all we had feared and worse. But she told it all calmly and carefully. By the time she finished, I was in tears. But she was fine, just a little tired, perhaps. But okay.
When I woke up the next morning, I knew it was real. All of it. Like you said. I don't know how I knew, but I did.
I couldn't help myself. I came over, sat down beside her, and just hugged her tight,
It's okay, Mom.
she said.
I'm okay. It was a long time ago. And another life. You know?
Oh, Janet, honey, I replied, drying my eyes.
So, yeah.
She sighed.
Apologies.
Janet, I said, recovering myself, you don't have to apologize for anything. You've always been intelligent, pragmatic, opinionated, and totally honest. And I've always been proud of you for that. I took a breath and said, I'm going to tell you something. Something I've always wanted you to know. But I guess I was always afraid you wouldn't accept it. But now I guess you're ready to hear it. And I told her the story that I told you both. Up at the lake, about how I came to this profession. And she listened. And she understood.
I had no idea.
she said. There's no reason why you should, honey, I told her. Then she offered me a cigarette and we lit up, and I asked her, I've been meaning to ask you, honey. Did your father know you were smoking? Back then? She smiled.
Well, of course I told Dad.
Hmm, that man. He never let on. We chuckled. Then she said brightly,
So, you don't want an apology. Then let me buy you something. Something you've always wanted. To make up for it.
Janet, I have everything I want or need, I told her. Except,
What, Mom?
okay, you don't have to buy me anything, but you can do something for me.
Anything. What is it?
Listen to your daughter, I said. Really, listen, because Zoe is very much in love with Lena. And for some crazy reason, she also loves you. Don't ever let this become a thing between you, honey. I promise you'll regret it. She considered this, taking a thoughtful puff of her cigarette, then asked,
She's that serious?
Yes, dear, if you only knew. Then I came to a decision. Okay, Janet, I said, I'm going to tell you the whole story, but you have to promise not to overreact,
Mom,
she protested.
when you say something like that, then it's because you know that I'm going to overreact.
I sighed. Just try to keep a lid on it, honey. So, I told her everything, and she was surprised and shocked, but she did manage not to fly off the handle. I explained everything carefully and let her process, and then I told her, if you want confirmation, well, Zoe has a website,
Yes, I've seen it.
she said.
It looks very professional.
Try reading it, I suggested, because it's all there.
It is?
Oh, yes. I let her consider things for a while. Then I noted, so, you're not mad? She shook her head.
Mad? No. Annoyed, yes. At myself mostly, for being so stupid. Conned by my own daughter? No, I'm not mad. Give me a couple of hours to think it through, then I'll be mad.
I passed her a cigarette and we both lit up.
And then I'll get over it.
Then she laughed.
God, they must have been desperate to come up with such a crazy plan. What were they thinking?
They figured that if you could accept that they really were Daisy and Roger, then you'd see that they were meant for each other, I explained.
Oh, God.
She chuckled.
You mean they actually thought that would work? And you went along with it?
Of course, honey, I replied with a grin. I've been looking for a chance to hypnotize you for years. That cracked us both up. Then she sighed and said,
So, we're good?
Always, honey. She smiled and said earnestly,
Thanks, Mom.
then we just sat together and finished our cigarettes quietly.
There is one more thing.
She eventually added nervously, Yes, honey?
Could you hypnotize me again? Please?
I was surprised. Why, honey?
Oh, I'm not looking for any more past life stuff.
She said.
It's just that, last time, you let me see Daddy again. I mean, I would really like to do that again.
Oh, honey, I sighed. I'd be happy to. So I took her back, and I think it really seemed to help her, you know? I mean, afterwards, she hugged me.
Oh my God!
Lena was aghast.
She already knew. She let us tell her the whole thing. But she already knew.
Yes, honey.
Grammy replied calmly.
I'm afraid she did.
Why would she do that?
That's my mom, I sighed.
I can think of two possibilities.
Grammy said.
What do you think, Zoe?
Well, I said thoughtfully, I guess she figured that was her payback for hoodwinking her. Grammy chuckled.
Yes, that is possible.
She replied.
But I rather think that she really wanted to hear it from you. Openly and honestly, you know.
I nodded. Knowing Mom, it's probably a little of both. I turned to Lena. Trust me, honey. We got off easy. But one thing still bothered me. But why didn't she tell us about Magda? You know? Grammy smiled.
Because of you, honey.
She said. Me?
Think about it, sweetheart. Remember what you said when I told you what Werner discovered?
I said we could never tell her.
She noticed that. I know my daughter. The fact that you didn't hesitate, that you were prepared to give up your plan to protect her, she appreciated that very much.
I didn't follow. But
Honey, your mother is a complicated woman. I think she's decided to let you keep that promise.
if she already knows,
I think I get it, honey.
Lena said gently.
It's a secret that you both share and you never talk about.
Exactly, dear.
Grammy confirmed.
She'll never mention it, so that you never have to break your promise.
My head was spinning with the weird logic of it. Yeah. That's so Mom. Oh, God. I sighed. I need a cigarette. So, that's where it sits. Or stands. Or whatever. Mom knows. I know. She knows that I know, and I know that she knows, and so on. And we don't talk about it. Actually, it's best not to even think about it because you can easily tie yourself in knots trying to get your head around it. But it doesn't matter. Lena and I are getting married. Mom is helping. Well, to be honest, Mom has taken over. It's all good. I can't honestly say that our plan succeeded, but I can't say that it failed either. I don't know. One good thing is that Mom's relationship with Grammy has changed dramatically. Oh, they still bump heads occasionally. But now it's usually about other stuff. You know? Mom's opinion on the whole past life thing hasn't changed openly, but she is less scornful. And deep down, you know? Actually, it's more than just that. She's more open about, well, everything. But that's a whole other story, and probably not fit for general consumption. You know? There was one other thing I have to tell you. I think it was just a few weeks later. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, Lena, Mom, and I went up to visit Grammy. So, Mom was still heavily in wedding planning mode, and she was going over something. Possibly seating arrangements or reception menus for the umpteenth time. Then Grammy jumped in and said,
Janet, honey, could I just say one thing?
Mom took a breath.
Sure, Mom. What is it?
Grammy gave me a sly wink and said,
Sleepy time, Punky.
then suddenly Mom let out a big sigh, closed her eyes, and folded like a rag doll. Straight into a deep trance. I gasped. Oh my God, you actually did it? The off switch? Grammy smiled affectionately.
Actually, I went easy on her.
She explained calmly.
She's remembering how she used to fall asleep on her daddy's shoulder. It really will do her good to take a break.
I looked at Mom. She looked so peaceful, with a gentle smile on her face. I think I was kind of envious. Then I had a thought. I'm not proud of it. Could I do that, do you think? I asked. I mean, if I said it? Would she?
Sorry, honey.
Grammy replied.
It'll only work for me.
But here's where it gets really weird. Because she was wrong. Just the following weekend, something had gotten messed up with the wedding arrangements. It wasn't really that big a deal, but Mom totally flew off the handle. She was just getting up, about to head out to tear a strip off of someone. Then Lena just put a hand on her shoulder and said the words.
Sleepy time, Punky.
Mom paused, looked up at her for a moment, and then just folded with a sigh. Completely asleep, or in a trance or whatever. Oh my God, I gasped. Lena was equally astonished.
Wow.
She whispered. I took her hand and quickly drew her away with me to the kitchen so we wouldn't disturb Mom. Babe, how did you do that? I asked, still completely aghast.
I don't know.
She replied.
She was just totally overreacting. And I just thought, what the hell? Couldn't hurt to try. And it worked?
So, Lena got on the phone to sort out the snafu before Mom came out of it, and I called Grammy to tell her what just happened.
Well,
She said thoughtfully.
now isn't that curious?
But how come it worked for her and not for me? I asked.
You tried it?
A couple of days ago. I had to bluff my way out of it. But she didn't, you know? Grammy thought for a moment.
Well,
She speculated.
I suppose it's possible that Lena's voice might have sounded closer to mine.
I guess. I replied uncertainly. But really, it was, you know?
Yes, I can imagine it was. That reminds me, honey. I've been meaning to ask, when is Lena's birthday exactly?
Oh, September 24th, I replied.
Well, well.
Grammy chuckled.
Now isn't that something?
What?
Sorry, honey. It's just that Lena shares a birthday with F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Really?
Mm-hmm. How about that?
Oh, wow. She'll love that. So, what that means, I have no idea. We are trying not to overuse it. Grammy warned us that the suggestion wouldn't last forever, but, you know? So, that's it for the Magda Effect. There's more. Of course, there's more. We haven't even got to the wedding yet. And before the wedding, there was the whole thing with. No, that's for another story. Sorry, but you'll just have to wait for that.